Okay, good. Should we redo that Denzel Washington Equalizer conversation for the podcast for the cold open?
I was just thinking about how we don't do cold opens anymore.
Yeah. Let's do the John.
Usually start like as soon as we start.
Yeah, let's
You're
do
like,
John Wick.
blah blah. No, it's got to be natural. You just sort of got to
Okay.
find the cold open. The cold open here could just be us talking about doing a cold open.
Yeah, it could be. Man, I really wish I had a cold open.
Yeah.
And then the jazz music starts playing. And I say, hello everyone and welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots Podcast. I'm your host, Charles Lung. With me as always is my co-host, producer, editor, and all-around cool guy, Larry Cardboard. How are you doing today, Larry?
I thought you were gonna say Larry King, and I was gonna.
Oh, that's sad.
I don't know. I was trying to figure out as the words Larry were coming out of your mouth. I was like, what is a Larry King impression? What does he do? I don't watch a lot of Larry King. So
You want my Larry King impression?
I know you're just trying to, waste time here because you don't actually have a pitch.
I do have a pitch. I have a pitch for a TV show. Look how much I've written down. 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, so many pages of writing. He can't see what I've written, but he can see that there's markings.
I mean, I can see that you wrote something. It's just,
Yeah.
you're flipping it really quickly. Also, it seems like you're writing like a kindergartner where you're taking up 2 lines with each letter.
No.
Did I see that correctly?
Not for most of it.
Not for most of it?
Yeah, not for most of it.
It's just for
All
some
right.
of it. Okay.
So, my pitch, I don't have a title. I couldn't think of a good title for this. So, that's your job now. My only idea was a tale of two sons, but that seems a little wordy and a little up its own ass. So, as most television shows do, it starts with a premise. Would you like to hear the premise?
Oh, really?
Yes. Alright, so these 2 guys in medieval times, they're not knights or anything, they're just 2 fuckwits, stumble upon this cave in the middle of the, scary British woods. On the moors. The windswept moors, they stumble upon a cave. And on the side of the cave there's an inscription that's I don't know what it would say exactly, but it'd be like, one person goes in and the other person can stay out, and they're both immortal. So as long as, of 2 people, as long as one person is in the cave and the other person is outside of the cave, they're both immortal. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So it's because I'm trying to make magic in this universe seem a bit more like give and take. It's less like you can shoot fireballs and more like you have to cut out your eye to see the future or something. You know?
Yeah.
So it's these 2 characters. The names are Jack and Bruce. Those are the 2 names of these 2 gentlemen.
Original.
Yep. What? Do you want to name something else? Let's name one Jake and let's one
Medieval
name Charlie.
Times.
Yes!
Medieval Times. The names are Jack and Bruce.
Yes! What's wrong with that?
Okay.
Bruce is definitely a medieval times name.
Maybe Bruce, but definitely not Jack.
Okay, think of Jack and the fucking Beanstalk. Never heard of it?
Nope.
Never heard of Jack and the Beanstalk? Alright. So these 2 guys, they're best friends. And they decide, alright, we'll do a thing where you stay in the cave for 100 years and I live out in the world as an immortal for 100 years, and then we switch. So they switch every century.
Yeah.
To who gets to live out in the world and who gets to stay in the cave and go slowly mad because they're not allowed to talk to anyone for 100 years. So the characters I have lined out, Bruce is honorable and he wants to make the world a better place. He is religious and principled, and he believes in his mission of making the world safer for all, but he also has kind of outdated views on things because he's a medieval times style guy, that's where he's from, so he's got outdated views on women and such, stuff that was not surprising back then, but becomes more and more surprising as the series goes on. And Jack is self-interested. He's a man of the world. He's interested in magic and sorcery and seeing new things and experiencing different ways of living and seeing and looking at the world. So these two guys, they're kind of opposites in some ways, but similar in others. And they're best friends, have been since they were kids. And they stumble upon this cave, and I'm starting the show a couple centuries after they've already found the cave.
Yeah.
So this is like, we're skipping from like the 15th century to season 1 starts at the beginning of the 1800s, 1800. And
so you'd start the show off with like them going into the cave and then to do like some skip forward thing.
Yeah, right? and then like the title shows, and maybe we do a thing where like a calendar falls down, or we do.
I think you can probably just show the title and then go straight to it. People would probably get it.
Yeah, or we could do like it. You just hold on the cave, and then like shit happens in the background, like castles are built and then knocked down, and all this stuff happens.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, we can figure out a way to do it. And so the first season starts in the 1800s. Bruce is in the cave, and Jack is out of the cave. So Jack has between the year 1800 to the year 1899 to just explore the world.
Yeah.
And do what he wants. So I'm thinking he spends the first couple of, decades just traveling, not doing really anything all that important. He's, trying to learn some magic, trying to figure out the mysteries of the world. And then he joins in the Napoleonic Wars for a little bit, just because, he can, and he doesn't.
Wow, Bruce really gets the short end of the stick here.
Why?
Jack gets some short wars when war was still kind of exciting.
Yes.
And then Bruce gets World War I and II.
I'm coming to that. It's okay. Part of the thing. Oh. So yeah. So he joins the Napoleonic Wars. He, fights in them for a little bit, but he gets disillusioned because he's like, the battles of man are unimportant. They all just fight over the same shit all the time, so I don't care anymore. He starts to travel the world. And I'm imagining this is an animated show. And this is our first season. We're kind of walking through history with this guy. And so I want to see what I think he moves to Southeast Asia first. And he, goes to the Tibetan monks, and he trains with them for a bit. Like he travels the world. And then the last 2 or 3 episodes, and then he goes to South America, and maybe he joins a party of people who are hunting a monster in the South American jungles. That could be one episode or 2.
A real monster or like a lion?
A real monster, but not super powered. How I'm seeing monsters and magic in these universes, a werewolf isn't a guy who turns into a gigantic wolf monster. At night, he just turns into a wolf. And a werebear is just a guy who turns into a bear. And there isn't you can't shoot a fireball or freeze someone with your mind or whatever. It's magic is more like curses and luck and charms. And so if you are magically infused with something, you have to give something up.
Yeah.
Say, this is just an example. Jack gets a curse put on him or a charm he puts on himself. That means he never misses. If he throws something, he hits what he's meaning to hit, right? Like Domino from the X-Men.
Yeah.
Sort of. But in exchange for that, he's got to chop off a hand or scoop out an eye or something.
Yeah. Okay. I get the idea. And also, he's immortal, right? And so is Bruce. Is this when you get shot, it regrows, or is it bounces off like Superman?
It's he gets shot and it regrows once the bullet is removed. Or it'll eventually regrow over the bullet, but it's just then it's annoying to have bullets.
So he can get shot in the head and die, sort of, and they'll lump him in with a bunch of other dead bodies, but eventually the bullet will squeeze out of his body and he'll wake up in a pile of bodies.
Yeah. Maybe if he dies his spirit is like sent back to the cave until his body regrows.
And so he just chats with
yeah, he chats with Bruce, who
he's like, hey, Bruce is like, hey, what happened? He's like, I was in Tibet, didn't see I was yelling kind of loud at the monk in front of me, and then started an avalanche. It was really painful, to be honest.
It was not fun. And then the last 2 episodes are, Wild West times. Like maybe hunting something. Maybe I'm thinking what are they called? Wendigos? Yeah. Wendigos. He's hunting some Wendigos in the Wild West, and he's like getting acquainted with modern technology.
Yeah.
Modern-ish. Like he gets a radio. And so at the end of his 100 years, at the beginning of the 20th century, he walks up to the cave and switches with Bruce because Jack is a man of his word. And he said he's going to do it, so he's going to do it. But like Bruce has kind of been sitting inside, not really. He's kind of losing his mind a little bit.
Yeah.
Because at the beginning of the 1800s, there's not a whole lot to do by yourself.
Well, see, you said it was medieval times, though, right? So Bruce has had his 100 years before, too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he's been in the cave before and waited, and so has Jack.
But it's starting to wear on both of them more and more as they, go on.
Yeah.
But Jack, brings a radio and, tons of books and, gets comfortable for his century stuck in a cave.
Yeah.
And Bruce he's more devoted to making the world a better place. And he's more devoted to, the greater good. So he's more, working on that and trying to improve himself. He's, learning combat skills and all this stuff. He's training himself to be, an ultimate badass warrior guy. Yeah. Where Jack is just kind of fucking around through history. So he gets out at the beginning of the 20th century. He reacquaints himself with the world because it's changed a whole lot. There's cars and there's radios and there's all this shit. So I'm imagining the first episode's kind of like a Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I gotcha. So it's
situation.
Like a fish out of water sort of thing.
Yeah, but he eventually figures out and he realizes, and he joins World War I, World War II. He goes through both the world wars, and he realizes mankind's never gonna stop killing each other.
Yeah.
They're just gonna discover new and horrible ways to commit, horrific genocide. And so he starts to buy into the sort of 20th century American exceptionalism that permeated the culture throughout, the 20th century, after the war.
Yeah.
He starts to buy into, America is the best in the world. We kicked the Germans' asses. We helped out in World War I. We're the best. And he starts to, buy into the sort of, manifest destiny sort of idea. So he's becoming more and more, infatuated with the American ideals and American, way of living. So he becomes a freelance government agent. And he spends, the next couple of decades assassinating people.
Oh, he shot JFK, didn't he?
He shot JFK. He was hired by Richard Nixon to shoot JFK. He's overthrowing governments.
Yeah.
South American communist
I see, because this all kind of loosely fits with his, make the world a better place thing, but it's corrupted by
just, the
abhorrent
passage
values
of
of the U.S. government in that time period.
And I'm saying at the end of the 20th century, and we'll cut back to Jack every once in a while, but Jack is not really the main character of this season. This is Bruce's season. So at the end of the 20th century, it ends with Bruce going up to the cave and Jack standing inside of the cave being like, all right, are you ready to switch? Because they have to do a thing to switch. It's not just walk in and out. And Bruce is like, Jack, you're my best friend, and I've known you my entire life.
Oh, no.
But there's so much more good for me to do. I can't I can't let them kill themselves over and over again. There's so much for me to do. And so he like pushes a rock over the cave opening as Jack is like screaming his name in anger. I'm like,
oh, so Jack can't leave the cave. Is there like a force field or whatever blocking him from leaving? Okay.
It's like a magical force field that stops him from leaving.
Yeah, okay.
And the second season ends on a cliffhanger, right? Yeah. Cliffhanger, bro, of Bruce being out in the world in 2000.
Yeah.
Like he's just watched The Matrix or whatever. And
damn.
Yeah. And he's like, I can't let them, I can't go away for another 100 years. I don't think I'll recognize the world I come out to. Because for him, it was like a jump from swords and muskets and cannons to like radios and pistols and like
machine guns and such, yeah.
Yeah. Like that was the jump he made, whereas Jack's jump was, different. So he's like, I can't go away for another 100 years. I'm not sure I'll recognize the world when I come out again. I need to help. There's so much more good I can do, my dude. And so he traps Jack, and he gets pissed off, and Jack's real pissed off. And so that's the end of season 2. Beginning of season 3, we pick up a group of scholars, students, and magic users in the year 2035.
2035. Right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's only 35 years after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think it should be 2135 or 2035?
It depends on the tech that you want to have. If you're doing 2035, that's basically now with like a newer iPhone.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just saying that like a group of people who are, have this mysterious set of coordinates that they have gotten in a, secret and possibly illegal ways, stumble upon the cave.
Yeah.
And like move the rock, and they find Jack, and he's gone crazy. Like he's still the person, he's still got the same personality, but he's just been locked away for 130 years.
Yeah.
And he has no hope of escape. Because even if he could turn off the spell, there's a giant fuck off rock in the way, so he has no way of getting out. And so he's kind of like gone full force into the magical side of things.
Yeah. So
he's just cursed himself with all these different abilities. Like maybe he's lost an eye, but he can like never miss or something.
Yeah. Okay, so he's like been trying to come up with different ways to get out.
Yeah. He's been like trying to make himself more powerful than Bruce, so that if he eventually ever does get out, he can kick his ass.
Yeah.
They find him, and he hasn't shaven in like 30 years. He's like all, big beard, big long hair. He's got an eye patch.
Looks like Terry Jones in Life of Brian. I'm talking about the hermit thing. Not no clothes on, just a beard that's really long.
He's got one leg. He's got one wooden leg, I'm thinking.
What did he get for the wooden leg?
Not sure. I think he's not going to tell them, so we can come up with things.
Okay. That's the best way to tell stories.
Hey, I'm just saying.
So we need to come up. Let's just like get rid of his leg because it's cool now, and we can use it as like a plot device later on.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying I know that he doesn't have the leg, but it's a wooden leg that can still feel pain. Like that's the thing. But his boon, I'm not sure yet. Because it's difficult.
You'll see how the plot develops what you need, and then you can.
Yeah. Because I don't want it to be like he's overpowered at all. I just want it to be like I like the idea that he never misses. And how that applies. Like, does that work with a gun? Because he's not throwing something, he's firing. So maybe he never misses with knives or like whatever, but he's a terrible shot.
Okay.
Because he has spent the last 100 years without a gun, and he doesn't get it. So we do another, like, or maybe he's got a replacement eye.
Like a glass eye?
He's got an eye that, like, is magically infused, and it can, like, if there's some crazy magic going down. I can tell because my eye will start burning.
All right, so Jack, he's in the cave. He's mutilated and has powers. People find him and move the rock. What happens next?
And they find he has spent the last century looking through spell books, and he's found that there's one way to get out of this. They are both allowed to leave the cave. Like, both of them are allowed to be outside of the cave for 24 hours. And at the end of that 24 hours, they will both die, unless one of them is back in the cave.
Oh.
So, season 3 starts out with, the world is kind of in shambles, and they don't know where Bruce is, because he obviously doesn't have the same name. But there's all these, like, pictures for this politician around, who's, like, a return to traditional American values. You know, make America fantastic again. Like, he's really pushing that agenda, and, like, anti-immigration and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, Jack doesn't know because he's stuck in a cave, and they don't know he's immortal. They just know he's a dick. And they were given these coordinates to go to them.
Oh, so he doesn't explain the situation to them.
No, because they were given the coordinates by by somebody who's working in the government underneath of Bruce, who is the politician. Surprise, surprise.
Maybe he wants to get rid of Bruce, is that what you're saying?
Huh?
Maybe he wants to get rid of Bruce, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, something like that. Or they know that they don't know exactly what Bruce has there, but they know that whatever Bruce has at these coordinates is, not good for him.
Yeah.
And so maybe the first 2 episodes are us getting reacquainted, or us getting acquainted with this small group of, like, I'm thinking it's a college professor studying archaeology, or a college professor in archaeology, a student of his, maybe like a hiking enthusiast or somebody, like a rock climber.
Yeah.
And a Tibetan monk who've all been sent, like, this letter and, like, told to meet here and, like, go find these coordinates. And so that's, like, the first 2 episodes, and we're getting reacquainted with the universe. It's a bit more sci-fi because it's 2035.
Yeah.
There's, like, drones and shit, but it's not, like, people aren't flying and shit like that.
Yeah.
And then, like, the end of the end of the second episode, they open up the cave, and Jack's there. He's like, "What's up?" And he explains to them, like, "All right, I need to get out and I need to find Bruce, but I only have 24 hours to do it. So we need to do some recon to figure out who he is."
Yeah.
And all Jack has is, like, a radio that broke 40 years back and, like, books. So he has no idea what the internet is or any of that. So he's like, "All right, this is gonna take a really long time to find him." And then he, like, pulls out a picture, or they're like, "Do you have a picture of him?" And he's like, "Yeah, here." And they like scan the picture,
and then
it's
get
like,
him immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh, we know where he is. Yeah, he's a politician. He's running for president, or whatever, or something. Or he's a general or some. He's powerful." And so I think you have to get through, like, I don't know if at the end of the season or that should be a beginning of the season, like, mid-season finale, is they, like, get Bruce, and there's a confrontation between Bruce and Jack where they, like, do a fight, and Jack's using all his magic and skills.
Bruce has got, like, cool tech or something, maybe.
Bruce has got, like, machine guns, and he knows Krav Maga. He's, like, a secret agent, basically.
I kind of like the idea that, like, maybe Bruce is kind of against magic.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's all about just using tech and stuff.
He's like, maybe it starts with, in the beginning, it starts with Jack being like, "Wouldn't God want you to take this gift of immortality to help more people?"
Yeah.
Like, as a way to convince Bruce to, like, join the Cave Club.
Cave Club.
Cave Club. Maybe that should be the name of the show.
No.
No? Okay, fair enough. So I'm thinking, like, maybe it's a mid-season finale. They're doing their fight. They get him, and, like, they, like, knock him out, throw him in a sack, and, like...
Well, okay.
they hijack a private jet and fly, because it's all, the cave is in Britain.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
So they like are trying to like outrun the sun and like make sure they make it there in time, and they've got like a set 24-hour limit. And so they finally get him in, and they close the door, and maybe Jack's like, hey, here's something to keep you entertained, and he throws like an iPhone in there, but it's got like 4%.
Yeah. That's pretty mean. Anyway, so they lock him in the cave, and wait, that's the end of the show? Like them two in the cave?
No, that's not the end of the show. Then we get sequels.
Oh, okay.
We the next half of the season would be Jack and the, Tibetan monk and archaeologist kind of going on adventures, doing what Jack was doing before Bruce locked him in the goddamn cave.
Okay, yeah.
Like journeying, seeing magical parts of the world. Maybe he's become more of like a paranormal investigator as, he's gotten older. More people have like heard about him.
Yeah. Because
he's in like legends. There was once a rash of evil chimpanzees here, but a great man came and he made them all go away with his magic.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, that's my idea. And maybe the end of the season they go to Australia. Because Australia's got cool stuff.
Oh. Well, I mean, maybe they go to space because you're getting kind of late in the time.
Yeah, you're right.
So they can go to space.
That's why I'm thinking if instead we make it 2135 instead of 2035 as when he gets out, it's like he's more crazy because he's been stuck in the cave for an extra century.
Yeah.
And like it gives more places to go story-wise, because you can still do the like mystical magical creature stuff, but you can also do like some sci-fi technology. Maybe not that they're like, it's not like Star Wars space travel, but there's like places in space.
Yeah, maybe it's just like inside the solar system, like you can go to Mars and they got cool hotels there, and
yeah,
the moon's got a really nice resort. Venus is pretty good for science research or something.
Yeah, and maybe he like will constantly correct them on historical facts because they're like, they don't know anything. They're like, Napoleon, wasn't he like...
They're like, Napoleon was really short. He's like, actually, Napoleon was like 6'2", I don't really know where the short thing came from. They're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I saw him. I hacked off one of his fingers. He's a big guy.
He was taller than me. He was a big guy,
Yeah, or they're just like, man, they're like, somebody's like, I hate Lenin and Trotsky and Stalin and all them. I hate the Soviet Union. And then like Jack is like, well, actually, Lenin wasn't, Lenin wanted...
Stalin was kind of a dick, He stole my lunch once. It was pretty annoying.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So that's what I'm thinking of for a series.
You could have during World War II, you could have Bruce run into our other character. Remember?
Exactly.
What's his name?
Isaac Illich.
Isaac Illich, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Just like a little cameo in the background because it's about the animated shows, so you could have him just like sort of
maybe
walk past.
They get into a fist fight.
Yeah, I guess you could do that. Yeah.
All right. Well,
I think that was a really good show. Probably one of your best ones.
Oh, thank you.
It would be the best one we've done if you had like a really
snappy title.
No, I was gonna say I got a title for you, but like had a really conclusive ending, because you have this going on for probably a couple more seasons beyond what you've come up with now.
You get some comic book deals.
Comic book deals.
I'm okay with it. I mean, we could end it with just Bruce closing the cave on Jack.
Wait, Bruce closing the cave on Jack, or you mean Jack closing the cave on Bruce?
No, Bruce closing the cave on Jack at the end of the 20th century. And like,
well, no, the best part about the show is that, like, it all builds up to him closing the cave and then Jack getting revenge. Like, he breaks the deal and then Jack gets revenge. I feel like that's the best part of the show is the revenge. But you need something that like like to end it all off, like you could do this back and forth a couple of times where like they lock each other in the cave and stuff.
Yeah,
but you need some like definitive. This is what happens in the end. Like, is it the spell broken, and they both die, or is it broken and they both just live out the rest of like their lives, like 10 or 20 more years or whatever it is?
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking like, if I like the idea of you just have like a villain, like somebody who you know wants to kill you or wants to beat you up, and you can't get rid of them, is just somewhere and they're stuck there, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that like Jack is like, I have to deal with Bruce eventually, but I've been stuck in a cave for 200 fucking years. I'm gonna get some goddamn ice cream.
Yeah.
You know, like I want toilet paper, man. I want like luxury.
Yeah.
And so maybe I think one way it could definitely end, but I think it would need to be like one of those where you skip ahead.
A bunch, yeah. Okay.
You know? Like that they get into Jack kicks him into the cave, and then there's a couple episodes, and then you do a time jump of like 50 years.
Yeah.
And Jack comes back and is like, Bruce, you know I can't let you out of the cave because you're never gonna let me out either. And Bruce is kind of like, yeah, I know. Like he's kind of admitted failure.
Yeah.
Like he's admitted defeat in this way, and Jack walks into the cave and like grabs his hand or like grabs around the arms or shoulder or something, like as a friend. He's like, come on, buddy, let's go for a walk. And they both walk out of the cave, and as like both their feet like hit the outside world, they start turning to dust.
Oh,
and, like,
yeah, okay. So you have them sort of make up, and they live out the rest of their 24 hours, and then it's it.
Yeah, you just be like, these guys are, their lives are forever entwined, and there's nothing that either of them can really do about that because of a decision they made when they were both young and stupid.
Yeah, okay, I like that. So it's like, you know, he puts him in the cave, Jack goes out, lives his life for a little bit. We have a couple fun episodes, right? Where he's like exploring, having fun in space and shit. But he sort of realizes that like, you know,
this can't go on.
He can't do this forever. He can't do what Bruce did to him. He's not like that. And so he goes back and he sort of makes up with Bruce, and then they walk out together. That's
and
sweet.
They both realize, and they realize like we're both out of time.
Yeah.
Like no human beings aren't meant to live this long. We're both relics of a past that's long gone. We should just accept that. Stop trying to run away from death. And they both like walk out and, you know, spend their last 24 hours hanging out.
Yeah.
Getting some sandwiches.
I think that's a good way to end it.
Yeah, all right.
Is that okay? Yeah, I think that makes it your best show then. There we go.
All right.
Best one so far.
Good, I'm glad. Not even Batman.
I'm really surprised though, because I mean, you all don't know this, but he was texting me yesterday about how he had nothing, and I was expecting a really half-assed pitch, but I mean, this is pretty good. It's pretty good.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, thank you, Jake, for your nice words and your editing skills, and thank you, the beautiful and lovely listener.
Oh, I forgot to say my title.
Oh yeah, say your title.
The Allegory of the Cave. So you take Plato's title for his thing.
I like that. That's fun. Yeah.
I said it's also because I can steal the photo for the thumbnail.
Yep. Fair enough. That makes sense. I get it. 2 good reasons for a title.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Jake, and thank you, the beautiful and lovely listeners, for listening lovingly to us talk for around 40 minutes. Take care, stay safe, and tell your friends about the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. Tell them, like, subscribe, do all the things that you're supposed to do. I appreciate it. Jake doesn't very much. He hates you.
Fuck off.
But I do. I love you.
See ya.
Goodbye.